Everyone, JVD here from the Villains of Man, bringing you another comic book review over Invincible Iron Man, issues 6 through 11 from Volume 3, Title Choices. Otherwise, the series is known as Ironheart, Invincible Ironheart. This is the 11-issue series that brings you the story of Riri Williams as Tony Stark is in a medically induced coma after his fight with Captain Marvel from Civil War II. This is a pretty good story. I really like this character. Bendis does a really good job of writing her as a teenage girl. Basically, in the story, she's got some choices she has to make with, going back to school, pursuing her superhero life, and, how to deal with villains and choices she's got to have to make as Ironheart that are going to affect not only the people immediately around her when she's trying to save the day, but that could overall affect the world. And she's still dealing with the Tony Stark A.I, which you learn quite a bit about Tony Stark through this the end of this series, which is really interesting. Might give you a different opinion on Tony Stark if you read it. But basically, that's just kind of what these 6 issues boil down to. Is just her choices she has to make and how they're going to affect her, and then a little backstory with Tony Stark. But to kind of get to some spoilers, choices. I had said that Riri Williams had to make choices. She's fighting old school Marvel villains that you really don't see a lot anymore. They're kind of just jobber villains, which she fight Animax in the first. But she winds up fighting Armadillo, which leads to her meeting the champions who had been looking for her. And they want her to join, but she kind of wants to be an Avenger. But all these kids are teenagers, so they kind of fit her. Also, S.H.I.E.L.D. Sharon Carter wants her to join S.H.I.E.L.D., and they'll give her, full access, to their labs and all this other stuff. And they want her to join S.H.I.E.L.D. MIT comes back, and she's kind of thinking she's in trouble, but she's not. And they want to bring her back to the school and fund her even more so they can represent her as basically Ironheart. So the other decision she's got is Amanda Armstrong, Tony's biological mother, wants her to take his lab as her base of operations. So she's got a lot of choices to make, and by the end of this story, she kind of doesn't make any of them, but she's super excited about them. The main, before I get into that, we're also learning that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been spying on Riri since Riri. Oh man, that's really tough for me to say. On Riri since she was a kid due to her intellect, and they're kind of hacking her video diaries that you're seeing at the beginning of each issue, and learning about her and how she's really starting to, keep up with more world news, and they kind of give you an idea of how intelligent she is. She's watching like 4 or 5 monitors with different news channels at one time while working on her Iron Man armor, and they're kind of monitoring how she feels about things, what she's deciding to watch compared to what's out there, and they're really getting an idea of who she is. And they really want her to join S.H.I.E.L.D. Sharon Carter is really big on it. But they make a note here as they're talking about her in a conference. They're afraid of the Stark A.I, and that is going to go berserk, which kind of ties into how the A.I. was acting come the end of issue 5 in the Skynet joke that Friday had made. But overall, the whole story is revolved around Lucia von Bardas coming into power at Latveria because it is without leadership. Now, if you don't know anything about her, she's a Bendis creation from the Secret Wars 4-part story from 2004. She's she's the ambassador for Latveria and winds up taking Doom's place, and she's funding high-tech criminals to go to the U.S. Really good story, 4 parts long. I'm sure a lot of people by now probably have issue 2 of that because that's Daisy Johnson's first appearance, Quake. So people probably have a lot of that, but it's just Bendis here tying villains he's created and using them for this hero that he's created, which I think is really good. But anyways, with a Mr. Geraldo Lucky funding her, she winds up taking power back in Latveria, and he's going to tell Sharon Carter about her, which he winds up being a human bomb, and that sends Riri to Latveria to take on Lucia. So they have an all-out brawl in front of the military, and she winds up defeating her and claims herself queen of Latveria, and the soldiers willingly accept. So Sharon Carter shows up, asking her, does she knows what she's done, and this entire time Lucia during the fight is telling her it's an act of war, that, that she's going to be punished for this. Well, being how the dictatorship has been set up throughout Latveria, you can take it by force. So that's what happens, kind of like a Victor Von Doom thing. And basically, she is trying so hard to help the people of Latveria, and even the military sides with it. And you see that the military of Latveria is very Shi'ar-like. Whoever rules Latveria, they give their complete pledge to. And you see this a lot with Gladiator. It kind of reminded me of when Vulcan had taken over the Shi'ar, and Gladiator would just let Vulcan walk all over him. But because he's, the Magister, he will not defy him. And you see a lot of that with Latvia's army. And by the time Sharon Carter shows up, Riri's done got food to the kids. She's wanting to build school. She's got this list of things she wants. She's already had Red Cross bring aid. And Sharon Carter's like, this is wrong. She's like, but it has to be done. She's like, but I don't want to do it. So her proclamation as queen is she established the first free elections of Latveria to, basically gain a ruler, and that doesn't happen by the end of the book. So I'm curious where that's going to go. And basically that kind of just sums up the story. There's another part of the story, and it's real small, and it winds up being really big come issue 11, is Tony's A.I. tells Riri that he's always questioned having kids, and he knew with his crazy life as being Iron Man that it probably wasn't going to happen. So when he's seen Riri, who he's always admired, and there's a joke there because she just doesn't get it, and Tony's A.I. and even Friday are like, that's a compliment, you should learn to take a compliment. That, he doesn't see her as much as a daughter, but a young kindred spirit. And I think that's Tony's way of saying, I see you as my daughter due to your intelligence, and he just didn't want to come out and say it. And he goes over, and it's due to how she views the world and how she wants to help it and her intelligence. And that's why he kind of chose her as his successor if anything kind of happened, which it did in Civil War II. And this really kind of plays into the end of the story. As they're all talking to Friday and MJ and Amanda Armstrong, they're all sitting there talking, and Friday mentions her Tony's secret files, and Amanda orders her to open them, and you learn all this stuff that Tony has done. And this plays off to when they're talking about Moira and Riri in the beginning of this arc, that Tony Stark's A.I. going berserk, and someone's like, no, Tony Stark's a good man. And you see that here. And when they're looking through these files, you're looking through all these fights he's had, which he keeps recorded because Amanda's watching them in one of the issues. He pays for all the rehabilitation and therapy for all the villains he's fought and caught. And he doesn't allow them to know that he's secretly funded it because he's afraid they wouldn't take it. He also travels around the world and builds orphanages secretly, anonymously, to help kids that need, and he even goes and visits the babies. And he even shows him with a little baby in his hand, and he's kind of nuzzling it, and, his mom getting all teared up, and you realize, that they make it seem that Tony really wants kids, and that he would actually be a good father, but he puts his need for that aside so he can protect the world and people that have children and whatnot. It really shows you how much of a big heart Tony Stark's got, and you really have never seen a lot of that throughout the character's history, and right here you get it. And I think that's a really nice little goodbye for Bendis as he's leaving Marvel, to show you that, hey, Tony Stark's got a big heart, and right here we're going to show it. And that kind of makes me wonder, because at the end of Infinite Iron Man, Amara is pregnant, the girl that had the cure for the mutant genome, and you would assume it's his. So I'm curious where all that is going to play out from. There's some good jokes in here. Riri talks about wanting to go to vacation to Tron because Tony's an AI and she acts like he lives in Tron. They make some jokes like, "How are you so young?" and that's such an old reference. And I thought that was funny because Disney owns Tron, and you could probably actually go to Disney World. I've never been, and see a bunch of Tron stuff. So I thought that was funny. You also learn that Nick Fury, he calls for a 616, code 616, which is the original Marvel Universe, which apparently is the code for a meta-human attack. And I thought that was really cool. And the one thing I had to pick through this whole series, and you can't pick up on it in the infamous Iron Man series, and I thought about it in the first 5 issues, and I thought to me it looked real apparent, is that they make Sharon Carter look really old in this story. And I don't know if she's meant to be drawn that way or if it's just the style from the artist, but to me there's so much detail and odd spots of her face, it makes her look old. And to me, she's always been young, especially if you look back on the original Secret Wars with her love for Captain America and when he gets assassinated, and she still looks young there. So to me, she just looked really old in this book, and I didn't care for it. Again, this book, Tony's A.I. he has gone missing, I should say, and the search for Tony Stark begins, and his A.I. is nowhere to be found there either. And if you remember, at the end of the first arc of this series, he felt that humans were the problem. And this is Tony's, conscious downloaded into digital form, and he thought humans were the problem. And he's gone missing, and Tony Stark has gone offline. So I'm not sure if someone has taken him from wherever he was comatose at, or what. So I'm curious how this is all going to turn out. I don't know if this will be more Riri Williams, or maybe S.H.I.E.L.D., his mom, Friday, MJ all looking for him. So I'm curious where that was going to show up at. There's some more backstory here for Riri Williams. You find out that when she was a girl at school, she showed her teacher a picture of the first black female astronaut. And she's like, this is what I would be. And she was expecting the teacher to tell her no, much like the astronaut was told when she was a kid. And she's like, no, you're supposed to tell me that to, make me, want to be this. And she's like, no, the times have changed. She goes back to her desk, and Riri Williams just kind of standing there with the picture waiting. And so the teacher turns around and yells at her, "You can't be Tony Stark." And that's when she apparently starts working on her Iron Man armor. So I thought that was really cool. And she's like 5 years old, so I thought that was really nice. And then later on, you see her call NASA basically and ask, about the age requirements for being an astronaut because they're not clear on the website. And she's like, oh, I've got this and I have that. And she's like, well, you have to be so old, all these college degrees. She's like, well, I'm calling you for my dorm room in MIT. And obviously the old lady realizes it's a young child. So that was pretty funny. And then you find out that when she was young, she met Tony Stark, and he saved her during the Skrull invasion. So I'm assuming that's during Secret War based on the Skrulls we've seen, which we've seen at Thor Skrull, Hulk Skrull, Captain America Skrull, Phoenix Skrull. So I'm assuming that's during the Secret Invasion storyline. You also get one of those at the time MJ met him, and this is where I thought that they were finally going to say that Tony Stark and MJ have had sex. And they meet. He kind of crashes in a model show that she's at, where she's on the runway. He goes to the party afterwards and meets her, and he's trying to, and she basically turns him down. And I thought, boy, I was like, finally, Bendis waited all the way to this issue, one of these last issues he's going to write with MJ and Iron Man just to make fans mad. No, it wasn't like that, thank God. I'd been pissed. But this whole story, issues 1 through 11 with Riri Williams, was really good. I was afraid I wouldn't like it. I really like the development of the character, and I'm really hoping that she'll stick around in the Iron Man title or an Avengers title, because I don't read... If she joins the Champions, I won't read the Champions, which I think she does. And I don't like the Champions. I don't really care for anybody that's in that story off the top of my head, but her being a young girl, it fits her. So, but anyways, good stuff. Read this with Infamous Iron Man. Obviously, it kind of ties together with Lucia trying to take over Latveria that Doom had left empty, and tried to let the military, elect whoever they needed to. No answer there. So these books run hand in hand. I would read much like I did, I read Infamous Iron Man first and then read this. It seems like it fits a lot better. But I'm JVD. This has been my review for Invincible Ironheart. Choices. Keep reading, guys.